Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com. And Nick joins us every single Monday, brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort. Proud to be the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. The headline from Nick's column is "When a Game of Inches Felt Like a Mile." What do you mean by that, sir?
Well, I mean, I've never seen so many plays inside the 1 yard line that didn't go one team's favor. But it just every time it felt like the Cowboys were really, really close. I mean, close, but getting down to the 6 yard line still felt like a mile to go, and it was. So they backed up 20. I mean, I just heard the call from Brad. I mean, I was standing right there. I didn't know they'd gotten all the way back to the 27 yard line, but I mean, they're on the 6. I mean, never now one time in that game did I think the Cowboys were going to win. When they got on the 6 yard line, I was like, seriously, like this could happen. And I turned around. I was right there on the sideline. I turned around. I saw two players like on the bench, kind of jumping around and laughing and getting excited. And I thought, wait, they haven't scored yet, so calm down. And then next thing you know, they go back 21 yards and they lose. But they were so close in the fourth quarter, and yet it just wasn't enough.
Do you believe the Eagles are definitely the better team?
I mean, they are the better team. Yeah. I mean, that's a good question because
when you're saying the feeling I'm getting from you, and I agree with you, is like the Eagles are just better. The Cowboys can play with them, but I believe the Eagles are better.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're better. I think they're better yesterday. I mean, I don't know how they are. If they're better today. Because they're definitely beat up, but they of course just they get a bye week at the right time. But I mean, I think the Cowboys. I mean, I'll tell you right now. I mean, the Cowboys are not going to lose until mid-December. So I think, and that includes the game with Philly. I mean, so
yeah,
they're 5-3, and it sucks for them because they easily they're in the final minute could have gone 6-2, but I'll be shocked if they're not 10-3. And so that's so I think I feel better about this team right now at 5-3 than I did 48 hours ago at 5-2.
I think you can.
I agree.
I think you could say, and I agree generally with that. I think you could say that when you're up 11 entering the fourth quarter, I know who the better team is.
Right.
But the Cowboys can absolutely beat them at any point. And the fact that they were that close at the end, this is a good football team. This is not some team that we need to overreact to one loss on.
Right, and I agree. I agree. But the offensive line. I mean, that's the biggest issue is that the Eagles' defense against that offensive line. And when you look at those plays that happened there, like the quick throw to Schoonmaker. I mean, they had to throw it quick. You'd like for him to get in the end zone. I'd like to throw it to someone else if I'm really being honest. I mean, rookie, second-round pick. He's going to be there. But 4th and 8, you're throwing. You're trying to see if Jalen Tolbert can make the play. You're seeing if Schoonmaker can make the play. I mean, this is where I'm forcing it to a playmaker, a proven playmaker, and but still, the defensive line just gave that offensive line fits, and to the point at the end with the sack there. I mean, that was a killer, an absolute killer sack from the 11-yard line back to the 22 or something. With all the time rolling off the clock. But I say the ironic part of the game for me, and I'm sure you guys have talked about it, is that when this ball's on the 6 yard line and they call a false start on Tyler Smith,
yeah.
Which the weird part to me was, and I tweeted this during the game, did they outlaw false starts? I mean, because I think you could make the case the Eagles false start every single snap. Like I think Lane Johnson gets out of his snap a half second before everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, they never call that, which, hey, they're not calling it. Fine. And it's just the ironic is this game ended and changed on a false start penalty for Tyler Smith, but who's not a 5-time Pro Bowler like Lane Johnson.
I want to talk about, let's go through the last series of events. Nick Eatman, Boomer Jack's Bar and Grill Hotline here on 105 through the Fan. False start, I disagree with that. Then their own 11, Dak is sacked. Some are blaming Dak, lack of awareness, followed by a delay of game. Some are blaming me, Terrence Steele. How do you feel about the sack and then the delay of game?
I'll be real honest with you. I mean, I got lucky enough to be down there at the end, so it's hard. Yeah, and I know I kind of like finagled my way down. I was like, no, I'm watching this down here, and I honestly couldn't tell you what happened in the sack.
Yeah.
So you hear it all the time. You can't take a sack there. You absolutely can't. That's why the false start penalty is the biggest play of the game, not the sack, because at the 6-yard line, you're going to get rid of it quick. At the 11, you got to wait for them to get into the end zone, obviously.
Right.
And so that was crucial. I mean, that's probably a combination of both. Terrence Steele obviously did not have his best game because, you know, he's going up against some really great players. But I don't know. Does Brandon Graham make a lot of plays against other teams? But it seems like against the Cowboys every year. I mean, he's making big plays, and he did in that game. But I think Dak is, I mean, you got to just throw the ball away. It's first down, right? I mean, you've got to throw that football away, and you just can't take a sack there.
Do you think that the referees screwed the Cowboys?
I thought there were some calls that were, you know, interesting, for sure. I mean, the Gilmore one is, yeah. I mean, guys, I almost caught it. I mean, I really did. I mean, the way they threw the ball up like that, I mean, I was about to go for it. So, you know, and yeah, I guess it's uncatchable or you know, whatever. I just don't get it. There was another one too. I don't know if TV even picked this up. I'm not sure, but like they called a holding penalty on defense for Michael Gallup, way on the other side of the play, but they threw the flag. And so it looked like it was in the fourth quarter. It looked like, okay, Cowboys were going to get automatic first down. And the ref just ran over. It was right in the Eagles bench, and he ran over and he said, I'm waving it off. And I'm like, but you threw it, you know, like
yeah.
That
was Bradbury hitting him in the helmet, and they picked it up.
He picked it up because it was like on the other side of the play or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about they screwed him. It just, you know, there were some calls. You just don't expect it, you know. I mean, and that's what it is. I mean, guys, let's be honest. I think it is what it is. I mean, the Cowboys aren't going to get a lot of these calls, and some of it they put on themselves. So
why aren't they going to get some of these calls?
Well, because I just
you're in Philly.
You know what? Because I think refs are human. That's why. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think refs are human. I don't think the Cowboys are going to get every call. I don't think some of the top teams are going to get all the calls. I don't ever remember a lot of games where you would say, man, you know, the Cowboys got a ton of breaks on this one. It happens. I mean, I'm sure the Eagles fans are saying we got some bad calls too, and they did. I mean, I think the officiating the last 3 or 4 games hasn't been good at all. You know, I don't know if Dak got that 4th and inches on. I really don't. I mean, I think he did, but I mean, I understood why they challenged that. But I just think that in a game like that, you're just not going to get a lot of calls. Where they need to get better at is it's just getting the breaks. I mean, think about it. I mean, Sam Williams causes a fumble. Of course, Jalen Hurts gets it. These 3 guys, like the 3 stooges at the end of the game for the Eagles, run into each other in the fumble. Of course, they get the ball. You know, those are the ones that it's you know the breaks that just didn't go their way in a game like that, which to me signals back to the first thing you guys said was I think the Eagles are the better team. I do, and they were just a little bit better than the Cowboys. If they would have won that game, I think they would have stolen it. Which is fine. It happens. Cowboys have got some games stolen from them. But I just think it was a game. I still think the Eagles are better.
Yeah.
But hey, if this is where it is, and they're going to face each other in 4 or 5 weeks, they'll probably face each other again. If that's the best team in the NFC, again, this is not a moral victory speech, but my point is, if that's the best team in the NFC, I think the Cowboys are like they can play with them all day long, and you know, give me a chance to do it again in January and. You know, see what happens.
Do you think that Dak was outstanding yesterday?
He would have been if he would have got that pylon. He played his ass off. He did. He played. I thought he played a really, really good game. I thought he had that angle. He gets that 2-point conversion. I mean, I don't know. You guys have discussed it. I mean, the game's completely different. I think it's different. I mean, but we'll see how Philly plays it on offense. I think, Philly put their foot off the gas a little bit there that helped the Cowboys get in there. But I thought Dak played well. I really did. I mean, he played really well. I mean, he played like a football player. We talk about it all the time. He's flipping around, diving. If he would have got that pylon, that changed everything. But no, I think he played a really, really great game.
Nick, when you look at the guys that they've paid recently, which one is giving you a little bit more concern right now, Michael Gallup or Terrence Steele?
Well, Gallup, because last year he got the pass, right? We didn't talk about it last year as much because of the knee injury, and as that's the case. I mean, we're still not 12 months from the injury for Terrence Steele. So, I don't remember all this talk about Gallup last year, and so if that's the case, then I think Steele needs to have the same kind of stuff. But both of them, is a problem. But what's funny is looking at the stats. Why isn't Brandon Cooks getting any heat? Cooks' numbers are terrible, and I know that those are the two you asked me about, and I
because we blame the quarterback or the play caller. We just assume Cooks is open because he's lightning fast. That's why.
Well, I'm
not saying I don't know what's right or wrong. I'm just telling you that's why we assume he has to be open.
I get it. His numbers are not even as good as Tolbert, and so he's got 2 touchdowns and he scored 2 in the last 2 weeks. So it's like, all right, Cooks is turning the corner, but 1 for 7 yesterday. Again, he didn't have the drop though. He didn't have the drop that Gallup had. That was a big drop. He wasn't really ready for the pass, and I don't know why. I mean, that's the thing. Why not? You're running over the middle and it's 3rd and 3. I mean, you got to the sticks. You got to catch him. Gallup is it's not working out right now with him. I mean, he's the 3rd receiver. If that now. I mean, Tolbert looks like he may have jumped him. So yeah, that's not good. I give him a little bit less of a pass than I would for Steele, who's still coming off that injury.
But his tweet was, "Why are you mad at the Cowboys?" And I've already seen some people text in and say, "I'm not mad at the Cowboys. They lost a game on the road, that they were underdog to a team that just might be a little better than them." And I totally understand that. We've talked about this many times, Mike. This is just my opinion, is I think so much the anger that you get with the Cowboys, it's not about a game. Yeah. It's also about, I have to factor in the last 28 years or the last however long you've been a Cowboys fan. And those feel impossible to separate for some people. And sometimes I'm one of those people as well.
I hear you. I understand. I'll tell you why I'm not mad about yesterday, but in general, very frustrated with the Cowboys organization. This might not be, I'm going to be honest here, this might not be fair. Starting this conversation off by, this might not be fair. But to multiple people, by the way, I look at the Texas Rangers and I look at what just happened, and they won a championship, an unexpected championship. Well, what are the main reasons why? Well, they had lost for 6 straight years.
Yep.
And they said, I don't care, John Daniels, that you've maybe done this or maybe signed that guy or maybe this is going in this direction. You've had your opportunity. You've had your chance to turn this organization around. We are going to go in a whole nother direction. It was very surprising to John Daniels. That was not expected by him. But that major change in the organization, and then Chris Young, who I think is a genius, who is going to sacrifice a lot of his family time. He doesn't need the money. Money is not an issue for Chris Young. He's like, I'm going to sacrifice my time and I'm going to give everything that I have. I'm not saying he's not a family man, but I'm going to give everything that I have to the Texas Rangers. And I have to hire the right people. I have to hire people that really have a presence about them and are going to change the ways of this organization. And that is very inspiring. The reason that I'm so I know that Jerry's not going to change. Jerry's not bad. Jerry's the greatest owner in the history of sports. There's no greater owner in the history of sports than Jerry Jones when it comes to owning a franchise, making money, all of those things. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the football side of it, It's the same football side ever since Jimmy Johnson left. A few things have changed. Will McClay was a great hire. He pretty much is the general manager, but still, Will's not able to really change the organizational philosophies here. And so because of that, because I know it's always going to stay the same, if John Daniels was here, nothing against John, this might be unfair, the Rangers probably wouldn't have made the playoffs because you don't have Bruce Bochy. You don't have Mike Maddox. You do not have the philosophical change that you really had in the organization. Chris Young is helping, but he can't really do everything. And Chris Young didn't even want John Daniels gone, but Ray Davis made a very smart decision and said, I have to change the whole culture of this thing. This has to be now some other face, some other voice leading this thing if this is really going to change. And I just know that the Cowboys, nothing against Jerry here as a person, it's not going to change. He is who he is. He has his philosophies. He has his beliefs. He believes an organization should be ran the way it's been ran ever since he got rid of Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy Johnson didn't want to be here. And it's going to be the same. So that's not fair. It's not about yesterday's game for me. It's about, I know what the Cowboys are always going to be. At best, they're going to be a good playoff team who underachieves in the playoffs.
And it is tough to argue about that because I don't have a counter argument where I can go, what about this season, without going generationally back. From the 817, I'm mad about Terrence Steele. He played like, I'm going to change it to not well because there's a lot of curse words in there. But the point is, very, very poorly. And I think what's really caught up for some people, and we've talked about this numerous times, I like Terrence Steele. Like yesterday notwithstanding, that was not good. I liked Terrence Steele. When they gave him an extension, even I was stunned at the money that they gave Terrence Steele, especially coming off the injury. So I think some people are upset about that, as well as giving another huge contract extension to someone coming off an injury and not seeing any like monetary gain from that from these 682. I'm mad because Mike McCarthy has had his opportunity respectfully. And here's the way I think the Cowboys are going to tell it to you. I believe last 3 years, let's include this year, they're going to finish 11-6, 10-7, something like that. And they're going to make the playoffs. That is my opinion. So they're going to look at the last 3 years of Mike McCarthy, and they're going to be like, you went 12-5, 12-5, 10-7, or 11-6, and you made the playoffs 3 straight times. Why in the world would you change that? I don't agree with that, right. To your point. I'm just telling you the way it's been explained to us by many people, both on and off the record, and I think that is a fair reason to be upset, is the Rangers did it for a more obvious reason. Hey, we stink.
Right.
We've stunk for a while. And the Cowboys, what I think people get upset about is, hey, we're good. That's good enough. And there are millions of Cowboys fans who go crazy, and they're like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
I think to your point, now trying to be specific about yesterday, why you're probably mad as a Cowboys fan, is you want everything to be clean. If you lose, you just have to say they beat us. They are a better team. They have more talent, whether they drafted a little bit better than you, they signed a couple of free agents that were better than you. Totally get it. But it feels like the Cowboys lose to San Francisco in the playoffs, lose these big games in the regular season to teams that are supposedly a little bit better because you shoot yourself, and I'd love to say just in the foot, but it feels like more in the private area that you shoot yourself in these games. And
Alec was ready with that dump button. I appreciate it.
It doesn't seem like the Cowboys really care to change that, if that makes sense.
They don't.
We've tried.
No, it doesn't seem. They don't.
Right. You could say it's Mike McCarthy. Well, then before it was Jason Garrett. Before that, it was an offensive coordinator. I'm forgetting the dude from Detroit. Before that, it was a defensive coordinator. Before that, it was, I don't know, Dave Campo. Before that, it was like it's always been somebody, Wade Phillips. But do you understand that no matter how good you are at general managing, and Jerry's decent at it, if you really won't hire the best of the best, if you're not willing to hire a Bruce Bochy who says lineup is the same tomorrow as it was tonight. There was no discussion with Chris Young. There was no discussion with the analytic department. Bruce Bochy had total and complete control on who was starting the game as a pitcher. Now, yes, he did talk to his coaches about it at times, but he's like, I'm the guy in charge. I make the lineup. I choose the pitcher. I do this and I do that. That's why I am hired. And there's not that same, I'm not saying everything's perfect with the Rangers, but when you win a championship, it surely feels like it. And then you're just like, I just wish that it would, but I know it's not. I understand that it's not going to change.
From the 214, we're asking why you are mad at the Cowboys. I have seen a few people like, I'm not mad at the Cowboys. And I saw another person who said they're not mad at the Cowboys because they're still riding high on the Rangers. From the 214, Dak takes too many sacks. Throw the ball away. From the 817. Stop Terrence Steele. Now, they worded it a little different, that it was very clever, but I want to avoid saying that specific phrase because of all kinds of problems that it's going to cause me. But you are very, very clever, and I appreciate that. Mike McCarthy, what is up with the penalties? And that's a tough thing for a coach that I know goes both ways, because Mike McCarthy's simple answer would be, yeah, well, I don't tell him to do those penalties. But on the flip side, when they're pre-snap penalties, I feel like, well, there's something there. Yeah. What are we doing in practice?
And to your point, like I heard the morning show, RJ Choppy go, they didn't teach that at Michigan. Well, a lot of times when Scooney was great at Michigan, right? There's a reason he was considered a top 3-round pick going in the draft and went in the second round. His talent far exceeds almost every person he played against in college football. So if you run your route 1 yard shorter than it should be, does it matter when you have a Michigan jersey on and the person trying to tackle you is Michigan State or Purdue, or I get Ohio State's great. Maybe the game against Ohio State, it does matter if you run your route 1 yard shorter than you're supposed to. But in the NFL, it really matters because right now you're considered a below average talent in the NFL. So you got to be really smart. And I'm not saying he's a below average talent for his whole career. I'm just saying that where he's at right now, things really need to be tight. That's why rookies can have mistakes because they're not used to playing people this good at their sport.
Okay, let me ask you this then, because that play in particular is a point of contention for a lot of people. Do you view it more on Scooney that you have to fight through the contact and make sure you're inside the end zone, or do you view that was a PI because he was almost being tackled before he got the ball? I'm seriously asking.
Great question. I hate doing this answer. My honest answer is I'm not 100% sure because I think I heard Broadus on the postgame show say that there was supposed to be some sort of pick, I think by Ferguson. I'm not 100% sure. That might have there was a
separation.
There was a little bit of, right, but that's execution.
Yes,
that is now.
Agreed.
So does that mean, do we totally blame Scooney? Do we blame somebody else but that seems to be the Cowboys' way, is we're not going to be as tight as we need to be in these situations. We're going to have a little bit of confusion in the huddle. How do you have 40 seconds to snap a ball and you're like, let's just take a 5-yard penalty and make it from the 27 with, one play like
that might have been the most infuriating
and I know
play of the game.
I'm jumping to another play and maybe taking something off of that play where you end up not scoring the touchdown where you thought you did once Scooney caught the ball, and then on replay you're like, oh crap. But I just feel like there's these small things that it feels like to me, never be corrected with the Cowboys. And that's what will always keep them just a peg below. And sometimes we just blame the coach. And sometimes we just blame the quarterback. But ultimately, haven't we done that since 1994?
Yeah. Or at worst, 1995. From the 317, I'm furious at the team for not having the urgency to win. This one is interesting to me. I don't know if this is the same person or I've seen a couple of different people say this. From the 214, I'm mad because I think Dan Quinn gets a pass too much. I have seen some steam build up about this. I guess I've just been way more pleased with his job performance the last few years than maybe other folks. But that doesn't mean it carries over to this year because the defense has had some struggles, man. Yeah. It really has. Now, I know Philly is an excellent team, but there were a couple times where the defense is frustrating as well.
For sure. We thought going into this season, and especially after 2 weeks, that this team could have one of those Baltimore Ravens, early 2000s defense. They could have maybe what you saw from the Rams when they won the Super Bowl, or if you want to go way back to the Bears defense or doomsday defense of the 70s Cowboys. It's not that. It is a solid, good defense, but it's not a Super Bowl changing defense. And so now you have to look at the offense and go, look, you do have a good defense. Your defense did do a good job in the fourth quarter. Now, did it do a good job the first 3 quarters? You could say no, it did not. It allowed 28 points to that point. But I could look at that defense and say it's good enough if you have great coaches, great quarterback. I do think Dak has enough. Terrence Steele was pathetic yesterday.
Yes.
There's no way or shape around it.
I'm with you.
Pathetic, arguably the worst offensive tackle in the NFL, and I did not watch all 12 games. But I'm pretty sure we're going to have a tough time going back and watching the other, let's say, dozen games in the NFL and find somebody worse at offensive tackle than Terrence Steele was yesterday.
And I do think the defense would get credit if, not for the entirety of the game, it's what we were talking about with Dak, because he was so good for so much of the game. I wonder if the defense gets some credit if you go back and you're like, hey, the Cowboys won because the defense was able to shut the Eagles down in the fourth quarter. Ignoring the entirety of the game, a lot of times what you do in the fourth quarter ends up being the narrative of what happened in the entire game.
The last thing I will say is this, being optimistic. The Cowboys can beat the Eagles. The Cowboys can beat the Eagles at home. The Cowboys can beat the Eagles in the playoffs. But then the question to you as a Cowboys fan is, do you believe the Cowboys will play well enough when it matters the most to really beat a team like the Eagles?
More Cowboy observations. I just feel like yesterday there was like a season's worth of dumb S that happened to you in one game, and it felt like it was a season's worth.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, dude. You start, Sam Williams is forcing a fumble, goes right back into Jalen Hurts. Donovan Wilson, I believe, he had 2 forced fumbles on one play, and they couldn't get the recovery. Even though for a second you thought they did.
The second one was down. He ripped the ball from Swift while he was down on the ground.
Yes.
The first one was legit. They couldn't come up with it.
Just 3 times they fumbled, got right back on the ball.
Yeah, at the end, the Micah forced fumble on Swift.
Yeah.
And then it's Steen or whatever these random offensive linemen falls
Steen,
on it. It's
Alabama.
Just very, very good fortune for them there. The Scooney play, of course, inches away.
Well, you're Steen like you're not blocking, so what are you going to do? You got to fumble.
That's right.
You got to be alert.
Steen was definitely not very good.
Yeah.
And on the Scooney play, I'm just like, okay, if you're dialing it up for a guy there, wouldn't you switch roles for Scooney and Ferguson? Let Scooney be the guy who's supposed to be the clear out dude, and let Ferguson be the guy who's supposed to catch the football. Yeah. Why are we drawing up plays on 4th down for Schoonmaker? They should never attempt another pass to him all season long. You drafted him to be a blocker. I don't want to see him being the recipient of another, especially a key play.
Yeah,
we've seen it enough, dude.
I get the Scooney frustration, but Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. I think they've tried it the opposite way, and Scooney didn't do a good job with the clear out.
Well, then get him off the field. Then there's no business for him being there. Ferguson was a beast all game. Feed him the ball. CeeDee Lamb, feed him the ball. Why are we on 4th down? My quarterback is immediately going to Scooney's my guy.
Or Brandon Cooks.
Never be the case.
Or Brandon Cooks, who's wide open on the play.
Well, he threw the ball to Tolbert on 4th down too. Are you okay with that?
I'm not necessarily okay with that for sure, but I at least know CeeDee Lamb was supposed to get the ball there. He's double covered.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering why we didn't just go right to Ferguson. It seems like the natural progression. When I looked all the way left, I want to get it to Lamb. He's a badass, almost 200 yards. He's double covered. Okay, Ferguson just won right off the jump. We should feed him the football. It felt like immediately Dak going, okay, he's double covered over there, Lamb. I'm just going to find the single covered guy over there. Unfortunately, it's Jalen Tolbert. Respect, bro. You had a couple of nice moments. You should never be receiving the football on 4th down. It should be Lamb, Ferguson, or Cooks. Say what you want about Cooks. He's come up big on 3rd and 4th and shorts plenty all season.
He has.
But Tolbert and Scooney on 4th down, that's who we're throwing the football to.
No.
That's malpractice.
No. I'll tell you what, I don't think you're wrong. I don't. I was just wondering if, like I say, I wanted to put the Tolbert play in there too.
Yeah, that deserves to be on there for sure.
Tolbert had a good game yesterday, but there was no excuse not to throw to Ferguson, who was wide open.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to throw the ball to Gallup anymore? I know he made a couple of plays.
The snaps, Tolbert's definitely starting to eat into those snaps.
Michael Gallup, another guy they paid after a big injury. Him and Terrence Steele.
Yeah.
And Tony Pollard. The 3 guys you paid, they just got injured. Let's give them a contract. And they're doing nothing to help.
It happened with Dak, too.
Yeah, it absolutely happened with Dak too. Unfortunately, that hasn't worked out in the worst way. It could have been much worse. He could be a broken quarterback, and it's like, why did we do this? He is the one where it's like, hey, you've actually played respectably for the most part since you got injured and we paid you. But Jalen Smith, you did not, and Terrence Steele, you have not to this point. Michael Gallup, you certainly have not. Tony Pollard, you have not either.
I do think Mike is on to something about with Steele with the knee injury, though. Coming back from that.
Like maybe he will get returned to form at some point, but still, you didn't have to pay him, though. You didn't have to pay him this offseason. He was still going to be your right tackle, and you could have seen whether or not he was going to bounce back.
We can't blame the kid for that.
It's on the team.
Did you hear me say, Terrence Steele, why'd you sign the contract? No. Cowboys, why'd you give it to him?
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were all clear that a lot of these contracts are like they're paying these guys. They have a plan about trying to get deals on guys that have been injured. Mm-hmm. That's a front office thing, but I think the thing with Steele, I'm surprised that he's struggled as much as he has. I really am. As hard as the guy works and how he prepares himself and stuff like that. But that was a tough matchup for him yesterday.
No, Reddick's a stud, dude.
And how about give him a little help?
Sweat's good.
I saw one play where Pollard came across the formation and actually helped him. And maybe if guys are struggling a little bit, maybe you got to think about that. But
do you want to do that with an $18 million tackle? If you have to do that,
of course not, Gavin. I don't. Of course not. I don't.
But you've realized you kind of have to do that now.
I'm trying to find a way to win a damn game. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, help the guy out at this point for sure.
It's 40. It's actually 80 if you count Dak. $80 million of their payroll they signed while they had just suffered catastrophic injuries, and they're holding their breath if they come back. Nobody's come back from the Dak injury 100%, including him. I think there's 3 quarterbacks that have managed to come back and appear in games, and it's just so difficult because of the strength and balance and everything that goes along with an injury like that. But, a number of years ago, the Cowboys pivoted because they didn't feel like they could trust that players from other teams would fit their system and could stay healthy. They're like, well, we don't know those assets as well. And they made this big shift to, we're going to re-sign our guys because we know they fit in our system and we have all of their medical history. And I think, if you want to approach free agency or team building like that, you have to be perfect in the draft. And they weren't this year. They're going to get nothing essentially from their first 2 days of picks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really disappointing. I also wanted to show love. It was 12 pressures, by the way, for Terrence Steele yesterday.
Yes, it was
12 pressures, dude.
Rough day.
It was a terrible game.
We went into this game talking about that the potential problems that they could have, and if you block the front, you make plays. They were times.
And they had times where they blocked it nicely.
I will say this.
Huge plays.
I will say this. That is the best I've seen Tyron Smith play in a long time.
Tyron was really good.
And so if there's one thing that I'm dealing with my right tackle, hopefully he'll get better. But if the left tackle continues to play like he did the other day, and that's always the big if, because he could wake up with a back problem, a shoulder stinger, whatever.
Give him a Romo Wednesday every day. He doesn't need to practice anymore.
You could build something on that left side with him and Tyler, though.
Those two right there, absolutely. Yeah. Now your center ain't playing great.
Tyler Biadasz has regressed this year.
And it's hard for him. He's just not playing with much power.
And I loved him. Last year I thought he was one of the most improved players in all the NFL and specifically on the team. But he isn't playing really well right now. And with Steele, he's under contract. The question will be next year, does he look as bad? Because we talk about a year removed from the injury, usually you're back to being the same player. I'm really concerned about the run blocking for him. That's why we loved him.
For Steele?
Yeah, that's why the combo blocks with him and Zach Martin, the movement, the power that he played with. Pass blocking's never necessarily been his strength.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think we've seen that. I don't think we've seen the combo.
We haven't.
But they've also, like I said, they've struggled with the tight end blocks too at point of attack. And the one time they actually got a little bit of, they get a holding call. Both their guys really were holding on the play. That's those are the unfortunate breaks. I'm a guy that threw a lot of dirt on Steele, but I think I've learned my lesson with him. As much as the struggle was for him yesterday, I think there's going to be a day where we wake up and we watch a game and it's going to go like, okay, things were much better.
I'm hopeful for that as well.
Yeah, and like Terrence Steele's the type of guy that works his rear end off. Like if anybody can get back
every
to
day
form,
we went
it'll
out there
be
for the
Terrence
draft
Steele.
show.
Yeah,
saw Steele out
every
there working.
day.
And it's the same thing with this rookie class. I talked about it last night. Like we can say, oh, the Cowboys have had a bad rookie class. Jalen Tolbert, everyone wanted to write off. Jalen Tolbert's showing you maybe he's going to take Michael Gallup's spot this year and be your third best wide receiver.
I think
you
that
can't just write dudes off 9 weeks into their NFL career and say these dudes are busts.
It's not about writing them off. I think Tolbert's getting the opportunities. It has less to do with Tolbert and more to do with Gallup. I would say that's my opinion.
I think Tolbert's also improved a lot as a player.
He has. But
and I agree with you. I think Gallup has regressed, but I think Tolbert's also taken a step.
But there's a hyper focus here, and now the bar is moved up for the expectation for your rookies when you're a team that depends as highly on them as they do.
No
the
question.
Cowboys are like, we're not really going to go out and do the free agent stuff. We'll mix in the trade from time to time when it completely benefits us. But we're just going to draft our guys. Okay, well then now there's an expectation that these guys need to help you not in 2 years, not in
right
3
now.
years.
Yeah.
We need your help right now, and we're not getting it, Scooney. We're not getting it, Mozzie.
Right, and comparing it to other rookie classes, they're not getting that type of production right now. And maybe we will look back on it, and this was not one of their best drafts. And maybe it is one of their worst drafts of the course of the last decade. That could very well be. I'm just going to, I'm not going to quit on a guy just because it hasn't been the success that we wanted to see immediately out of the gates.